How are we going, everybody? I'm a Friendly Tree, your host today, for another episode of Nina Williams In Depth. Today we're talking about a universal tool, so not a Nina specific move, but one that is very core to her gameplay, and that of course is forward dash. Before we start, once again, just make sure that all your settings are as you intend. You don't want anything to be incorrect here. You want to make sure that anytime you're labbing something, you've got your settings all perfect. Anyway, Nina's forward dash. So any forward dash is crucial to this game. It's a spacing control tool, of course, but what is it? It's not forward walking, so it's not just tapping forward, it's double tapping forward, and you'll notice that they cover more ground. If we look at this, I'll reset those. If we go to about range 3, and then we do a double tap, we get to about range 1.35. So what we're looking here is, so that's 1.65. That's about the distance we cover, 1.65. But you don't really need to know that exact number, of course, like going, what the hell? I walked 1.65, and yeah, it doesn't help. What you need to do is you need to consider how appropriate that is compared to the distance from your opponent. So Nina's forward dash will always do that, but one advantage of forward dashes in Tekken opposed to other games, so other games might have you locked for 17 to 20 frames of a dash, and you're vulnerable during all that. In Tekken, you're only vulnerable during the inputs. So if I were to go forward, back, the second I hit back, I block. And this is what we call dash blocking. And this is key, this is very key to just gameplay in Tekken in general. So what you want to do is you just want to practice dashing and blocking right away. Yeah, that's probably the key thing. So I mean, you can cancel forward dash into anything, not only block. So you can cancel into a sidestep, you can cancel into attacks. And that's a good way that you can increase the range of your move. So that's important. We'll talk about that with application. So obviously if I go that, into that, into that, so that, it's going to whiff, but if I go that, yeah, it's going to connect. So you can use dashing to keep yourself close to the opponent. You'll notice that I was doing forward neutral attack, and that's how you do a neutral button. If you want to do a forward button, so you've got dash attack such as Bad Habit, you hold the forward. And as well as that you can hold it, you don't have to press it at a certain time. You've got a lot of leeway to change your timing. So you can use dashing to change your timing as well. But of course while you're holding forward, you're vulnerable the whole time. Now you might see that I'm getting some running moves to come out here, and that's the other thing about forward dash. If you're a certain distance away, and you go forward, hold it, you'll start running. If you're too far away, you just double tap it and you'll start running. So if you are about here, and you just hold forward and hold it, you'll do a while running move. If you're close, that's not the case. You'll just do a forward move. And that's where you have to do a forward input. I've talked about this in a previous video, that the way to do the forward input is, I essentially consider it like the dash is a stance. So you're getting into your stance, and then you're pressing, the forward. And now I'm trying to demonstrate it. I can't do it. Nerves, right? Here we go. But some people do it as a forward, then a forward, which also works, and apparently better. No, I honestly think go into a dash, and then you do a forward during the dash. Oh yikes! I am not good at this. It's good to practice anyway. Ah. Yeah. So that's the difference there. The other thing with the dash is at distance. You'll notice, if you hold it and you run, you won't do much at some distance, but if you're enough, I think it's 3 steps away. 1, 2, 3. You'll do a tackle, and you've got the follow-up from the tackle, of course. If you're even further away, you've got the power crush shoulder charge, or the low slide. So those come from the forward dash too. But generally we're just going to look at doing the forward input. It kind of comes down to the recovery of moves. So if I put recovery animation on, and you'll see I'm shaded out, I can actually input the dash a little bit before I recover, and you've got a couple of frames of leniency there to do the first input of the dash. And this is a good way for a character like Nina to stick on the opponent, just like I was talking about with this before. So I'm doing a forward dash into a move. You can also do it on hit. Obviously you're negating frames in doing this, but it's a good way to stay close to your opponent and continue pressure. Okay. I think the next thing we'll go into the application, and I've got a few more things I can talk about, but it's more or less just the use of dashing and timing. So I think we can talk about that in the application. So let's move on to application. So forward dashing in Tekken 7, like I said, it's a key part of Nina's game plan. It's a key part of any character's game plan really, because you're needing to stay in your ideal range. And with Nina, in pretty much 90% of her matchups, her goal is to get close to the opponent and try and stick on them and use her frame advantage and pestering tools to frustrate them into making a mistake that you can capitalize on with a good whiff punish, or a good punish, I guess. So with that in mind, backdashing is still a good part of it, and Korean backdashing and backsway Hayashida is important, but we need to figure out how to use forward sway. And with that in mind, I said trying to get close to Nina. One of the most common questions I see, if it's not how to do while standing 1 and side step 1 cancels, it's how do I approach my opponent with Nina? And you know what, that's really tough, because you've got characters with things like magic forwards, you've got things like jacks down forward 2, you've got some really strong keep away tools in the game, but they aren't without risk, and a lot of the time they're also quite negative on block. If they're not launch punishable, or at least something punishable, like jacks down forward 2 being neg 14, they're still negative, so you can dash and block, and you can still use it as your opportunity to get in. So with that in mind, let's think of a character. Let's think of Nina, okay? So let's think of up forward 1. So look at the range there. If I'm trying to get, so if we look, we're at about range 3, and it hits. So if I'm trying to get in on a Nina, if I'm trying to get in on an aggressive Nina, this is about a good range to stay at. This is more counter Nina tech, because I could forward dash into this range and then back dash to try and make it whiff. So that was a bad example. So essentially what you're trying to do is you're trying to get into the range of a key move that your opponent may be using, or the character may be using, and you're trying to use that as your marker of where to stay. And whether you block it or whether you make it whiff, obviously making it whiff is better for you. This is looking more like a backdashing tutorial now, isn't it? Let's hold on, let's make this a bit slower. So that's kind of what I want to do. So you want to backdash and forward dash and sort of stay at that ideal range that you've deemed good for your opponent. Well, good against your opponent, sorry. So it's not about always making the move whiff, it's just about you're pretty much limiting their move set by using your spacing. And then you're trying to make them whiff a tool, or trying to figure out if they're going to play aggressive or defensive. And that's where you can either forward dash in to take your turn, or you can wait for them to whiff a move or do a move that you block, and then you can take your opportunity. Because it's not always beneficial just to run up and do something like this. It does depend on the opponent, of course. You can just run up and do stuff, but a lot of the time you'll find they'll have countermeasures, such as a magic 4, or even just sidestepping when it comes to things like that. So that's why it's good to sort of get in, and especially when you're not sure what the opponent's going to do, the safest method to approach them is dash blocking. Now do remember that dash blocking isn't completely invulnerable, so oops. For example, if I go, well, that was horrible. If I go like that, on hit, you've got enough frames that you can dash and then you block. So yeah, but on block, you'll get caught. So you can't just autopilot forward dash blocking. And this is something I've been guilty for in the past when I'm not thinking too hard. So keep that in mind. There is vulnerability and you need to make sure you know when you can do these things. 16 frame. Yeah. So you can see there's that gap there. And that's because of the forward neutral forward that you do to dash. So despite how quickly you might do the block, it's still, you're going to be vulnerable in certain situations, especially when you're negative, so don't always do it. And it's the same with backdashing. You do have a frame or two in there where you're not holding back. So keep that in mind. Alright, so that's the main thing I wanted to talk about with spacing there. What about using forward dashing in combos? Because that's another key thing. And this is another common thing that gets brought up is Magic 4 for Nina in her combo. So we do that, and I mean a lot of ranges we can get that to connect, but then the follow-ups can be a bit finicky. Come on, tree, demonstrate. Yeah. So if you're close, you got that as a pretty easy combo. But if you're far away, if you can't get that to connect, forward 1+2 is your only option, unless you dash. So if you do a dash jab, that'll connect. Or dash down 4-1. And that's pretty much how that's the most consistent way, because then at range, you can still get a combo, even when a quarter circle forward 1 won't work. And you can actually get more than a dash jab, but it's tricky. Very tricky, depending on the character. Come on. The dash doesn't even come out. So this is a good thing to practice. Yeah, there we go. So you can actually get like a 15 frame to connect there. See? And that's all just about getting used to your dash timing. So dashes are very important in combos, and that's not the only example. The rest aren't as necessary. I'm kidding, some of them are. Another very necessary one is that. Oops. Because if you don't dash here, oh, yikes. This is a tricky one, especially on this side. Ah. Yeah. If you're not doing that, then your combos are less consistent or you're dropping a lot of damage. So using the forward dash there is very valuable too. And then you've got other examples, such as if we go like this, you notice that whiffs. But if I go forward dash, then it connects. So that's just a tiny dash, and that's what we call a micro dash. Because like I said, you can dash and cancel at any time. So you're doing a tiny little movement forward with a dash. Another example could be using the jab combo into a jab. I think you can only get one to connect there. It's obviously not optimal, but it's good for style points. So you can use dashes in combos quite a lot. And then I guess the more simple situations would be things like after you've done a tailspin, you need to dash to catch up to the opponent. So you're using dashes all the time. And sometimes the timing can be quite tight, like if you go and drop the combo. Yeah, if you go and drop the combo. Come on, tree. What did we just talk about? Yikes. You need to get your dash timing pretty on point do things like the quarter circle forward one ender, or the while running 3-4, depending on what you're doing. Ah, screw it. You get what I'm at. You get what I'm coming at right now. Why am I dropping this? Is there anyone that comes and watches my videos just to watch me drop things? Because I drop things so much in these videos. At least it shows that I'm human. Oh well, anyway, so you need to use dashing in your combos. So they can be used during the combos and they can be used after the tail spin as well. You also need to use them to catch up with a wall splat. Now there is also situations with the forward dash with punishment. So the biggest examples that come to mind for me are Lucky Chloe and Claudio, and I think Claudio's is the best one to demonstrate because it's very easy and you won't see me drop it too much, hopefully. Lucky Chloe's isn't actually that bad, to be honest. Lucky Chloe's is Cali roll. You use a side step forward dash and you can punish the options of Cali roll, you can OS it. But with Claudio, his forward 2-2, 12 frame punish, pretty commonly seen. You'll see I don't really have anything that can reach it, even though I'm at plus 26. So the easy option is to do like a forward 2. Right? That's an easy 40 damage, or if you want an easier 39 damage. Oh, but if you do a forward dash, you can get a reverse ivory cutter. And that's hard. Yeah. So, forward dash becomes a part of punishment too. So that's good to keep in mind, but it's situational. And it's hard. That won't reach, will it? No. Oh. I think you can do up forward 2, but it's tough. It's very tough. Yeah, I don't know. I'd do reverse ivory cutter anyway. Or if I'm online, I just do forward 2. Much easier. So forward dashing comes into play with movement and spacing, which is the key thing for Nina really. It comes into play for combo application, using combos, optimizing combos, and it comes into play for punishment too. I guess the other thing with spacing I can talk about is you kind of use it to bully the opponent to the wall. Have you ever seen, if you watch some high level gameplay, if you watch some of like the top Korean players play, when they are pressuring an opponent, when they know the opponent's going to be patient, they might just dash in their face. And what they'll often do is they'll do like a dash cancel. And they're using that to mix up the timing, and they're also using it to push the opponent toward the wall or towards a better position. So you can actually use this to bully an opponent, and as soon as you see a movement, you can either do a back dash, a back block, or you could throw out a counter tool. Or if you think they're just going to stay there, you can see how they're going to react. Are they going to duck? Are they going to stand there? And you can throw out what you think is appropriate. So you can use forward dash to get in, you can use it for the spacing, and you can use it to bully them as well. I think it's a valuable tool. And I'm sure there are 1,000,001 more things to talk about with forward dash, but I think we're now going to go on to the summary. Forward dash is a universal tool in Tekken 7 and many other fighting games. When you do have a tutorial in the game, it's often one of the first things they make you cover. And that's because positioning, spacing, and just movement in general is so core to fighting games. And in a 3D game like Tekken, this is even more important. For a character like Nina that wants to be close to an opponent, forward dash is very strong. You want to be forward dashing a lot, and you want to be trying to keep at that range of a key move or some key moves that your opponent may be doing, trying to bait a whiff or trying to find your opportunity to get in. Dashing and then blocking, as you can cancel a forward dash into anything. Dashing and blocking, or dash blocking, is a key element to Nina's approach and just her defensive play in general. If you can find your opportunity, you want to try and get in, and you want to get a feel for what the opponent's going to do. Are they going to respect your dashing in, or are they going to try and challenge? And that's where dashing and blocking is important, But also, when you know the situation, it may be dashing and doing a high crush, dashing and doing a low crush, dashing and just starting pressure in one way or another. Whatever way it is, forward dash is the way to pressure your opponent and to keep at the close range that Nina wants to be at. You can also use it to bully the opponent and keep them close to the wall. Well, push them close to the wall, or push them close to a more favourable position for Nina. And you can use it in combos. So you can use it to dash to link more in a combo. You can use it after a tail spin to get certain items, well, certain options to link. You can use it to to complete combos or get more consistent combo routes, such as the Magic 4. Oh yikes! Why'd I drop it? Yeah, such as the Magic 4, where options may not work at all ranges, and you don't have the time to confirm it as easily as as other situations. How do you use the forward dash? Do you think it's as important as I'm saying it is? I honestly think it's one of the most important things to learn. Forward dashing and back dashing and dash blocking in general are all very fundamental parts of Tekken that will take you very far on their own. If you can forward dash in appropriate times, appropriate situations, and use it to mix up your timing and your approach, then any opponent is going to have a hard time versing you. Anyway, comment below, let me know what you think. Thank you everybody for checking out this video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you all for the next video.
You win.
What's done is done.